Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the chance of some warmer, thundery weather coming up at the end of the week again. We did this last week, of course. It all turned into a non-event, really, away from the far southeast. So I'm a little bit dubious about going into too much detail about this. Hopefully it won't get downgraded as it did last week. But we'll have a look at the detail on it in a moment anyway. And then I'll have a look at the CFS V2 for the coming month. Going into July, there are some pretty interesting signals for July, and not necessarily all that good, to be honest. Well, before I get on with that, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the pages at Gasweb.com. Have a browse through your widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through the article and read the article. And thanks so much for doing that. There's also for the ads on the page. So open out with the content. Once you watch them, they'll close back up again. Thanks so much for getting involved. These things are paying for the website, so thanks for doing that. So, as I say, I have got the chance of some warmer, thundery conditions for Friday. This is the GFS 6 o'clock run, the very latest run from a GFS model for Friday. We've got flabby area of low pressure down across many western and southwestern parts of Europe. Actually, it is a very unsettled scene at the end of the week for much of France, even down into Spain and Portugal. Unusually unsettled, really, for the time of the year. And that is moving northwards gradually at the end of the week. Brings some warmth with it, so these are the upper air temperatures. We can see the heat extending out of the Mediterranean up into many western and central parts of Europe. We are on the periphery of that warmth, but we're further in it than we was last week. I'm sure you remember last week the warmth was really shoved off before it ever got in, and that's why the thunder didn't really come to a great deal away from the far southeast. Well, this time it looks like we're going to be more in the warmth. The warmth isn't as intense as it was at the end of last week, but it looks like it's covering more parts of the country, but there's still time for it to be shoved away into the continent, so let's not get too certain about this coming off at the end of the week. But anyway, the latest idea from the GFS is to lift the temperatures up with this warmth pushing up from the south. But there will be an increasing risk of thunderstorms coming up with that warmth. So here's the precipitation chart. 6 o'clock in the morning on Friday. You can see that the showers and storms do extend down through France into northern parts of Spain. Of course, we've got events going on at the end of the week and the weekend. In France, it's Le Mans, and we're also going to have the Download Festival. I'll be having in Donington. I'll be having a look at both of these events on the events page this evening. Probably be the last update for these events, but it's a pretty big weekend. We have got these showers and storms from the word go on Friday morning down to the south of the country, and as we go through the day, that low pressure pushes northward. So there it is by 6 o'clock in the evening on Friday. The low pressure is actually sitting in right over the top of England and Wales. It's bringing the warmth with it, but it's also bringing a threat of some heavy rain and thunderstorms. This is the rainfall chart for Friday. And we can see there's lots of precipitation being seen here for England and Wales. Quite intense blue colours as well, indicating the chance of some very heavy bursts of rain in places also. The convective potential chart showing the yellow and orange colours there across England and Wales, indicating that there will be a risk of lightning and thunder. I think what could happen with this, the leading edge may be thundery, maybe sort of thunderstorms, and then it may turn into a more general wet pattern. Actually, the rain may turn more sort of generally heavy and thundery as opposed to thunderstorms. But anyway, it looks very interesting for Friday. Quite an interesting day's weather coming up. Temperatures will be okay, up to 24 or 25, as long as this heat doesn't get shoved off into the continent like it did last week. Now, beyond that, we're going to keep it unsettling into the weekend. So this is the chart for Saturday, and it shows sort of slack pressure gradients across the country, indicating that it's still likely to be unsettled. The thundery low itself is actually going off in towards southern parts of Scandinavia, but we're still in sort of a slack flow. There may be a cold front coming down from the north at the same time. So it's quite a complex pattern actually as we go through into the weekend, but the overall idea, I think, is to bring a cold front down across the country, which may bring more rain and to introduce very, very cool air. That's very cool air coming in over the weekend to the north of the country. So we get a brief push-up in the temperatures on Friday, but over the weekend, those temperatures could really be dropping away. Here's the rainfall precipitation forecast for Saturday. And you can see we've still got quite a bit of rain there across parts of the country. It extends into the North Sea and then goes up to the thundery low pressure sitting across southern Scandinavia. So it's probably some sort of weather front strung out, and it's to the north of that but we start to introduce that very cool air over the weekend. And as we go through into Sunday, that rain comes southwards again across England and Wales and introduce some very cool air from the north. These are the maximum temperatures for Sunday afternoon. I think this is over the top. I would be very surprised if an afternoon on the 14th of June is that cool, but it is signalling the model temperatures to be no better than 8, 9, 10 degrees quite widely across much of England and Wales. Of course, this is where we've got rain, so if the rain is restricted, then that alone will mean that it isn't as cool as this, but that's the potential that the model is seeing anyway. If it is raining on Sunday afternoon, the air is cool enough to keep those temperatures in some places down in single figures. But I do think that's probably over the top, and we're more likely to be around the low to mid-teens, 13, 14, 15 degrees, something like that. But certainly very cool air coming back again over weekend anyway. Now looking at the next week to 10 days, this is the chart for Monday the 15th, and high pressure starts to reach back in off the Atlantic. So it's still this idea, and I was talking about it in the video yesterday, it's still this idea that we've had through May and now going into June, which is for high pressure to be to the southwest, low pressure to the northwest. We're keeping the winds in from the west or northwesterly type direction. It means that it's unsettled at times, but it's not a washout, it's not a 2007 repeat. It's not flooding rains, just generally a little bit on the unsettled side, and temperatures rather on the cool side as well. So we go into Tuesday next week, and we've got the ridge here in the south, low pressure coming back to the north, brings some rain at times, and that's sort of how we go through the week. Then it's more unsettled up in the north, it's mainly dry in the south, but the high pressure isn't in a position to really generate proper warmth. It's not getting over to the east of the country as it has to do to really bring in a prolonged spell of hot, dry weather. So day 10, Friday the 19th, looks like that, with, again, the pattern goes on. Low pressure to the north of Scotland, the high pressure is generally centred down to the southwest of the country. It'll mean much of England and Wales probably has a decent week of it next week, but temperatures won't be very exciting. There'll be rain up north, and occasionally some of that showery rain could get through into the south. ECMWF very much in agreement. This is the day 10 chart from the ECMWF, and it's all very, very similar really. The low pressures to the north, high pressure centred down to the southwest, and it's the north that gets the most unsettled conditions. The driest weather through next week will be in the south. Temperatures will be okay in the sunshine in the south. It'll feel alright, but nothing particularly exciting coming up in terms of those temperatures. So this pattern that we've had really since the start of May is very entrenched, and it's going on now well into the summer. Let's have a look and see what the CFSB2, the latest 500 mm high tonometer, predicting for the next month, and this takes us into July. So what we see for week 1, and this is the 8th to 14th of June, so the week that we're in, and it's a pretty good representation really of what we're just looking at from the models, the ECM and the GFS. I've got the low pressure centre to the north, got high pressure centre to the west and to the southwest, trying to throw a ridge into the east, but never really being able to become centred to the east of the country. The jet stream goes something like that, so it's niggling through. It's not a washout of the pattern, but jet stream is there. It's bringing unsettled conditions, particularly to the northwest of the country at times, and also got this trough down to the south. Well, not really a trough, but we've got weak pressure to the south, so it's unusually unsettled for parts of Spain and Portugal in particular, and some of that is trying to get up into the country, and that explains what's happening on Friday and into the weekend potentially. Now week 2, the 15th to the 21st of July, looks like that, with the ridge again, it's still there out to the west of the country. The jet stream is going rather like that. So again, it's just a continuation of the pattern into week 2, with the high pressure to the west. Always the risk of more unsettled conditions coming down at times, and temperatures will be rather on the cool side in that situation. But of course the sun is very strong now, so it can get out of the wind and get plenty of sunshine. It's going to feel okay. It won't feel cold, but no, it's not a great pattern, really. And then as we go through to the 22nd to the 28th, this is encompassing Glastonbury. Of course, Glastonbury updates will be starting on the events page very, very soon, perhaps as early as Friday evening. And this isn't very good at all. Look at this, got all this red up here over Greenland and Iceland. That's always a bad sign. That's proper northern blocking with a trough centred across central parts of Europe and going down into France. So the jet stream here is going rather like that. That's a very, very poor looking chart, and if anything, through the last week of June with that one, could be turning increasingly wet. That could be very unsettled, particularly in the south of the country. And it's very cool as well, that, because the flow is probably coming from a north to northeasterly type direction. So that really is a very poor week. If that's right, keep it in your diaries for the final week of June. See if it comes off. It could be very, very poor if that was to come off like that. And then finally, we go into July, the 29th of June through to the 5th of July. And, well, it's not as bad as the final week of June, but look at this. We've still got all of this red and orange up here to the north of the country. So whenever you get northern blocking in the summer, I've explained it before, whenever you get northern blocking around Greenland and going to the north of the country, it's never a good signal, because you can start to run low pressure systems underneath it with the jet stream rather like that. There's no actual evidence of low pressure running underneath that block at the start of July, but I wouldn't be surprised with the northern blocking if that is how things panned out. So overall, it does look as though things perhaps get worse. If anything, I'm afraid it gets worse at the end of June and into the start of July. We've got to keep a close eye on it. The temperature anomalies for the next month, stacking up like this, is the 8th to the 14th. Very cool anomalies for the coming week. Temperatures will be below average. The next week, the 15th to 21st of June, the temperatures aren't as bad, but still cooler than average. Going through to week 3, this is when we have all that northern blocking and the trough to the east of the country, southeast of the country. Temperature anomaly still coming out cooler than average. And that goes on into the start of July as well. So a very cool month coming up, if this is right. Despite that, temperatures will be lifting up a little bit on Friday. It's only a brief sort of lift up in the temperatures, and overall the CFSB2 seeing a very cool period coming up. The rainfall, we start off week 1 average to dry of an average, so rainfall is okay with that reef sitting just to the west of the country, and that goes on into week 2 as well, 15th to the 21st, looking dry of an average with the high pressure just to the west. And then we go sort of to average rainfall, so it isn't seeing a deluge for week 3, but I think with the pattern that the model is signalling there, with the northern blocking and the trough over Central Europe and France, that could be a wetter pattern actually than this is showing. It is showing an increase in the rainfall, obviously, because it's going from dry of an average week 1 to week 2 to average rainfall for week 3. So it is seeing more rain in week 3, but not a desperately wet period. But I think actually that could be wetter than that suggests. And then week 4 going into the start of July, 29th of June to the 5th of July, again comes out average. I'm not sure about that one. But that could be a little bit wetter as well. So I think overall we're looking at a pretty cool month of it coming up, if CFSB2 is right. And we may be seeing certainly hints anyway. Let's say no more than that, but certainly hints. But as we go through towards the end of June, start of July, the pattern could be deteriorating with sort of proper northern blocking beginning to get in. And that is always a very bad sign for the summer. Be interested to see what the JMA model is showing on Friday. When we do JMA Friday, it'll be interesting to see whether that's picking up on the northern blocking for the end of June. But coming back to this week, not going to be too bad up until Friday. Then we could have some thunderstorms and briefly some warmer weather before it turns much cooler again over the weekend and stays unsettled. We will have to wait and see until close to the time frame whether the warmth and the storms are shoved off like they was last week when we actually get to Friday. So let's wait and see on that one. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.